Welcome to the Dadcast, a podcast produced with love exclusively for Jocelyn, Brandon, Gianmarco, and Valeria. This is your host, Christopher Pereira, but you can call me Daddy. Today we're going to talk about the scariest moment of my life. Scariest time I ever experienced in my life. Well, now I'm thinking about it and I'm second guessing. I don't know if this is the scariest. I think now I just defeated my purpose right now because I just realized that actually the scariest moments in my life were when all four of you were little and you got sick and your mom and I had to take you to the ER to find out what the heck was going on with you. And it happened with each one of you, and every single time it was pretty scary. And those were probably the scariest moments of my life. But the second scariest moment of my life was this time when I was traveling through Latin America like Indiana Jones before I met any of you or even your mom. And um, I was traveling. You know about my 6 month travel journey through Latin America. I drove a car, a Toyota 4Runner, from here all the way to Chile. It was a 6 month journey. Went through Mexico, Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, um, Costa Rica, Panama. Then when you get to Panama, actually the Pan American Highway, which is this long highway from all the way from Canada or even to Alaska down to South America to Chile, there is one highway. It's called the Pan American Highway, but the highway ends or breaks in Panama because Panama has a jungle that divides it from Colombia, and this strip of jungle has no road, there's nothing in it other than jungle and animals. And so you can't keep going. Once you get to Panama City, you have pretty much to stop there. And the only way to continue going was to put my car on a ferry, on a container, on a boat, on a ship, and ship it to Ecuador. Then I took a plane to Ecuador. I got down and went to the port to wait for the ship and pick up my car and kept going. Then after Ecuador, I entered Peru through the north and kept going south to Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and eventually I went through Bolivia. Brazil. Um, I went through Bolivia. So I've pretty much been to every country in Latin America, most countries, not the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, I've only been to Puerto Rico, but in the mainland, most countries except for Venezuela. Now, I think that's the only country I don't know, Venezuela. Um, so anyway, the scariest moment, second scariest moment of my life was when I was crossing the border from Paraguay to Bolivia. And let me tell you something about the border because you've seen the border from Mexico to the USA, and believe it or not, that is one of the most developed borders in the world. I mean that it has the most infrastructure and it's the most as organized as they get. Trust me. That is actually one of the best borders, the most organized, more, it has an infrastructure, it has lanes, it has pavement, it has, light. So many of the other borders are a lot scarier and chaotic, and they don't look anything like the only border that all four of you know. So, but this was um, between Paraguay and Bolivia. There's a stretch that is really desert. And before you can get to the border, actually in the maps, there is a road, but most people, and so since I didn't know anything, I saw a road and I said, well, that's the road I'm taking to go from Paraguay to Bolivia. But once I got there, once I was in the midst of it and actually traveling through that desert, the few people that you could find on the road would tell us, what are you guys doing here? Tio Miguel Angel and I were traveling. They would tell us that people don't really use this road. It wasn't really a road. It was just a dirt road, kind of like the way to Apodepe. bumpy and with holes, and there aren't any gas stations, so you're worried about running out of gas, and it was pretty scary. Um, Later, we found out that actually that road is primarily used by narco traffickers, by drug dealers, and it's hardly ever used by just regular people or seldom tourists. And so we were there and we got a little lost. The map was really not coinciding with what we were seeing. At one point, we almost ran out of gas. We finally ran out of gas station. We ran out of money, and we had to give our video camera to the man in the gas station to pay for the gas. And he accepted it. He was actually happy to have a video camera. Uh, but so then we got lost and it got dark. It's like things kept getting worse and worse. We were lost, we were scared. Um, there was nothing, there was no one. The road was horrible. Imagine kind of Kerobabi to Opodepe. It was horrible. But imagine on top of that, a hard rain. It began to pour, hard rain. So it was really scary to the point that we couldn't really see. There were so many holes and just potholes, and the rain was so strong that we just said, let's just stop, wait until tomorrow. We'll sleep in the car, and we'll wait until tomorrow. There aren't any cars going by or anything like that. Just us in the middle of the desert, supposedly a road, when it's raining. And so we just stop and say, let's wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll figure it out. At least it'll be daylight and it won't be raining anymore. So suddenly we see a truck coming from behind, and we're like, what should we do? This might be our only chance to get some directions here. So we got out and we stopped the truck. But we were a little scared because we didn't know if they were going to be drug dealers. And actually, they looked like army people. It was an army truck, and the people looked like army people. And we thought, gosh, maybe these are drug dealers or terrorists or something like that. But we had already stopped them, so we asked them for directions to Bolivia, and they said, follow us. We are kind of going that way, and we'll direct you. So we followed them for a long stretch. Such a long time we followed them, or it felt long, that we thought, my gosh, maybe they're just trying to kidnap us or something, and they're taking us to wherever they live. We were very suspicious of them. And so suddenly we stopped, and there was kind of like an army camp, and they said, well, we stop here. You keep going just a couple more miles, and you'll run into the border with Bolivia. So, that was the scary moment. That's it. Maybe it wasn't that scary to you guys, but it was scary to us when we were going through it. And trust me, it was very scary. And then when we get there, it was so funny. It was just this, out of all of the borders I have seen, and I have seen many borders, this was the most undeveloped, the least sophisticated, the smallest, the less crossed border I've ever seen. There were nobody else crossing. It was basically a little fence and a little hut, like a house, like an old house made out of wood, where there wasn't even electricity. When we stopped by the fence, a border guard came out. He was sleeping. He got up. He came out with a candlelight to greet us. He said, come in, follow me. We went into the hut with him. He opens this big book, an actual book, paper, right? Big, old notebook. I mean, so old, and you could tell he hadn't used it for a long time, because when he opened it, a lot of dust came up. And then he asked us for our passports. He wrote our numbers and names in there, asked us how long we'd be staying in Bolivia. We told him we were passing by, and he let us go. And that's it. We crossed over to Bolivia. Everything was a lot easier after that, but that was the scariest stretch of our road. And that wraps up this episode of the Dadcast. Tune in next time to hear from the wisdom of a man that loves you more than any other man other than God. Love you guys.